everyone, welcome back to Hands-Free Studying for the MBE, brought to you by Brainscape.
These upcoming evidence questions cover authentication and expert testimony. All right, let's get started. Question 1. What is tangible evidence? Tangible evidence is documentary evidence and other physical objects. Question 2. What is demonstrative evidence? This is evidence that is representative or illustrative of an object or situation. For example, an animation of a car crash. Question 3. What is authentication of evidence? All evidence must be authenticated, in other words, proven genuine, before it may be admitted. The proponent must establish that the object is what they are claiming it to be, and the final decision as to whether the evidence is authenticated rests with the jury. Question 4. When is authentication not necessary? Authentication is not necessary when the parties have either stipulated to the facts or a party granted a written request for admission. Question 5. What are examples of methods by which evidence can be authenticated? According to Federal Rule 901, evidence can be authenticated by either testimony by a custodian of records, testimony by a person who prepared or created the document, testimony by someone who witnessed the signing of the document, or by an expert witness who's qualified to give an opinion, or by showing the trier of fact, the jury, a comparison of the unauthenticated evidence with an authenticated specimen. Question 6. What is self-authenticating evidence? Self-authenticating evidence is evidence that is so self-evident that it requires no extrinsic evidence of authenticity in order to be admitted. For more information on this, look at Federal Rule of Evidence 902. Question 7. What are examples of types of evidence that are self-authenticating? Examples of self-authenticating pieces of evidence include certified copies of public records, official publications, newspapers, trade inscriptions, commercial paper, notarized documents, anything that a federal statute declares to be authentic, or any certified records of a regularly conducted activity. Question 8. How can a physical object be authenticated? There's generally 3 main ways that a physical object can be authenticated. The first is via personal knowledge, meaning the testimony of a witness with personal knowledge that the item is what it's claimed to be. 2, by its distinctive characteristics, meaning it can be authenticated by its contents, substance, internal patterns, or other distinctive characteristics of the item. And lastly, it can be authenticated by the chain of custody. Question 9. What is authentication by chain of custody? This proves that the item in court has not been materially altered or tampered with. Every single witness who handled the object must testify and state, first, when the witness took custody of the evidence and from whom or where. 2, the precautions taken to preserve the evidence. 3, they must testify that the item was not substituted nor tampered with while in their custody. And 4, they must testify when the custody of the item was relinquished and to whom. Question 10. How are reproductions, for example, diagrams, authenticated? Reproductions can be authenticated by the testimony of a witness with personal knowledge that the item is what it's claimed to be. Now note, it does not need to be testimony from the creator. It can simply be anyone with personal knowledge as to the object's authenticity.
And that's the end of your 10 flashcard study round. To reach full mastery, remember to study in Brainscape. Our mobile and web app uses the latest in spaced repetition techniques, allowing you to optimize your study time and track your progress down to the finest detail. Of course, when you're driving, cooking, exercising, or otherwise unable to navigate the app, be sure to keep listening to the rest of this hands-free studying playlist. No matter what subject you're learning and what method you're studying it, Brainscape helps you rise to your challenge.